Here at The Binger, there are few things we love more than a good crossover event.
Yay! A crossover always brings out the best in each show!
There's been talk of Crisis on Infinite Earths ever since the pilot episode of The Flash in 2014.
It certainly doesn't smack of desperation.
So you know we've had time to prepare.
The priorities are always creative and not driven by marketing.
Okay, that's enough.
But just in case you need a quick refresher, we'll go over all the Superman characters you can expect to see when the time comes. Clark Kent may be able to hide in plain sight by putting on a pair of glasses, but that won't fool us. Tom Welling. After conducting a nationwide search to find a Clark Kent for the show Smallville, producers finally settled on actor Tom Welling, but they had to look past a couple of things. Like the fact that Welling was 24 years old at the time and Clark was supposed to be 14. Oh, and that he's 6 foot 3 inches tall, which means he would tower above the average high school freshman. Welling even turned the part down a couple of times before finally giving in and agreeing to portray one of the most iconic superheroes of all time. Smallville featured the story of Clark Kent before he became Superman. It took viewers through his high school years and into his adulthood, including his career at the Daily Planet. In addition to the normal growing pains of being a teen and getting your first job, Clark also had to deal with villains straight out of the comic books, as well as grapple with his alien origin.
Krypton. I've always wondered what happened to that child.
Fans of the show can also look forward to seeing Erica Durance reprise her role as the famous Lois Lane. She managed to nab the part at the last minute the first time around, getting hired just 3 days before filming began. Hopefully this time she had a little bit more time to prep. But Durance isn't the only Lois Lane. Bitsy Tulloch has played the part during the CW crossover event Elseworlds in Supergirl and The Flash. She took some time to pose with Tom Welling and her own version of Superman, Tyler Hoechlin. Interestingly enough, Hoechlin was once in the running for Bruce Wayne in Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice.
A little hypocritical, wouldn't you say?
But apparently he was a much better fit for Clark Kent, who he played on the show Supergirl. According to him, Superman's greatest power must have been being able to get that awkward and uncomfortable suit on and off as quickly as he does.
Nice suit.
Hoechlin could barely handle it in his dressing room, let alone crammed into a phone booth. Although Hoechlin is 6 feet tall, he's actually the shortest actor to ever play Superman in a major production. He was also the same age as Melissa Benoist.
I don't know who you are.
Despite his character supposedly being 12 years older than Kara Zor-El. By the time her spacecraft lands on Earth, Hoechlin's version of Kal-El is all grown up and patrolling the skies as Superman.
Need a hand?
Hey, cuz!
It's good to see you.
But there's going to be a third member of the Superman squad in the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover event.
He's doing it.
Brandon Routh. Although he didn't get a chance to be Superman for as long as the others, Brandon Routh managed to beat out some big-name stars for the part. Warner Bros. Spent over a decade developing a plan to relaunch the franchise with a movie called Superman Flyby, which never ended up getting made. Actors like Nicolas Cage, Josh Hartnett, and even Henry Cavill were considered for the part. Hey, at least Cavill went on to play the character in 2013's Man of Steel.
It's not an S. On my world, it means hope.
After the project was scrapped and the studio started working on Superman Returns, director Bryan Singer decided he wanted an unknown actor for the lead. Singer believed Routh was the perfect embodiment of the character and compared him to the legendary Christopher Reeve. Although the movie was a disappointment at the box office, Routh's performance was lauded, and we're excited to see him back in a cape for Crisis on Infinite Earths. In Superman Returns, not only is high school a long way away for Superman, but so is Earth. He went out in search of his homeworld and upon his return is forced to deal with the consequences of his leave of absence. The movie came out all the way back in 2006. And many fans are excited for Routh to be reprising the role after all this time. But he's not just playing any old Superman. Well, actually, he is kind of playing an old Superman, but a very specific one. Different roles. Routh will be portraying a version of the famous hero based on the DC Comics Kingdom Come storyline. It takes place in a future where traditional heroes are out of vogue and are considered wildly out of touch with the ways of the world. Instead of superpowered saviors, the world is plagued with reckless vigilantes, and apparently it's so stressful it's caused Superman to go a little bit gray. This is a more cynical Clark Kent than we're used to seeing. He's been through some heavy stuff by the time this storyline rolled around. He also has to deal with the fact that the people of Metropolis that he dedicated his life to saving turned their collective backs on them. Not that this made him super bitter or anything. On the other end of the bitter, disillusioned spectrum, we have Tom Welling's Clark Kent. The show Smallville generally tried to abide by the no tights, no flights philosophy, meaning the showrunners purposefully didn't show us Superman in his full power, spandex-clad glory. We've seen a cute Instagram photo showing Welling and co-star Durrance looking cozy down on the farm, and it makes us miss Smallville just a little bit. Fans wonder if Welling will have the chance to suit up or if he'll be sticking to flannel. Then smack dab in the middle of these two soups, we have Tyler Hoechlin's character. While he hasn't been a major player in the Arrowverse so far, that could all change during this crossover event. We have a feeling the more traditional Superman in his prime will likely have a prominent role in Crisis on Infinite Earths. Other characters. The good news is that John Wesley Snip has been confirmed to make an appearance in the crossover. The slightly less good news is we don't know who he will be playing yet, but there are quite a few options to choose from. He portrays Henry Allen and Jay Garrick on The Flash, and he's also been Barry Allen in the 1990s Flash series. When he appeared in the Elseworlds crossover event, he did so as Barry Allen.
Dad? My name is Barry Allen.
His friend Ryan Choi will also be there, played by Osric Chow. Another star you might remember from Elseworlds is LaMonica Garrett, who played Mar-Novu / the Monitor. He'll be taking on the additional role of the Anti-Monitor this time around. As you probably guessed, the Anti-Monitor is the opposite of the Monitor, even though they're both played by Garrett. He's focused on raising the multiverse to the ground and then ruling over the ashes, which is a pretty bold career goal, we have to say. Stephen Amell will of course be an important figure in Crisis on Infinite Earths, as Oliver Queen, the lead of Arrow. Since the show will be ending its 8th season run in fall 2019, few fans are expecting Oliver to survive Crisis. Kevin Conroy has voiced Batman so many times, but this time he'll be showing his face as Bruce Wayne, or at least a special guest appearance as Bruce Wayne from the future. Hey, we'll take it.
Stay with the cops.
Some fans were disappointed Michael Rosenbaum won't be back as Lex Luthor from Smallville, but we are getting John Cryer, who plays the villain on Supergirl. Apparently, Rosenbaum was offered the part by Warner Bros., but the offer wasn't accompanied by an actual script or any indication of what he'd be paid. Oh, but they needed an answer right away. Yeah, that was a hard pass on Rosenbaum's part, and while we're disappointed, we can't say we blame him. Ashley Scott will be reprising her role as Helena Kyle from Birds of Prey, and Jonathan Schaech will portray Jonah Hex. Burt Ward will also be joining the cast, although his role is still undisclosed. But in the past, he's taken on the part of Robin in Batman, both the show and the movie. Theories. Details have been scarce, but we do have some ideas about what to expect from this ambitious crossover. According to LaMonica Garrett, showrunners are doing their best to stick to the script, and by the script we mean the comic book. Garrett says they're trying to stick as close to the comic book as possible. It makes sense to look at the source material to see how all the different pieces of the Arrowverse fit together. We know that Crisis will take place in a multiverse which consists of parallel universes, most with their own versions of our favorite characters. The Monitor takes charge of cataloging these realities, but then we have the Anti-Monitor, who we mentioned earlier. In order to protect the multiverse from the Anti-Monitor, the regular Monitor decides to recruit the best of the best heroes from across space and time to merge the multiverse to strengthen it. Before he can succeed, he's taken out by the Harbinger, who's possessed by the Anti-Monitor's demon. A non-possessed Harbinger then helps gather the heroes to take on the Anti-Monitor, a task which costs Supergirl her life. Later, Barry Allen also falls to the Anti-Monitor, and Lex Luthor from Earth-1 takes over the remaining Earths. Eventually, the 5 Earths merge into a shared universe, with only some heroes remembering their original realities. The Anti-Monitor is defeated by Earth-2 Superman, one of the few characters who actually remembers the past. Yeah, you can see why CW President Mark Pedowitz called this the biggest, most complicated one that they've done. And speaking of multiverses colliding, the big news is that characters from Black Lightning will be crossing over with the Arrowverse for the very first time. But of course, this isn't going to be exactly like the comic book, and we fully expect it to tie into the setup from the last crossover Elseworlds. Barry and Oliver swapped lives, and Oliver makes a deal to save Barry and Kara. He promised to do whatever it takes to save the multiverse when the Monitor calls for him, which happened at the end of Season 7. And we wouldn't be at all surprised if at least one version of Superman doesn't make it. Unlike many other crossover characters, losing Superman wouldn't affect an existing show, and you know he can always be counted on to save the day no matter the cost. Even though the multiverse might take some damage, we doubt it'll be eliminated entirely. Instead, it seems more likely some will be consolidated, while other shows like Gotham and Titans will remain on their own timelines. It's possible shows like Supergirl and Black Lightning will end up in the main Arrowverse. If you're a fan of Legends of Tomorrow, you might be wondering how this crossover will affect the series. According to executive producer Kido Shimizu, while Crisis is going to get pretty wacky, wild, and weird, it won't mess with his plans for Season 5, which will air in 2020. Crisis also won't stand in the way of Arrow's season finale. There will still be 2 episodes left once the crossover finishes. We will also get some closure on that headline that's been teased for years, which mentions Barry's mysterious disappearance in the midst of a crisis. The Flash executive producer Todd Helbing called the headline a major factor in the crossover. And fans of the previous crossover can look forward to seeing Batwoman and Supergirl teaming up again. During a press tour, Ruby Rose said she and Supergirl would potentially do more work together in the crossovers. It's clear that however Crisis on Infinite Earths plays out, we can look forward to seeing some of our favorite characters in action, even if we'll end up saying goodbye to a couple of them. You know what they say, it's better to have loved and lost Superman than to have never loved Superman at all, or something like that. What do you think about the cast of Crisis on Infinite Earths? Do you have any predictions for this upcoming crossover? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section below, and then click on that subscribe button for more videos from us here at The Binger. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again next time.